Our subscribers get it, with exclusive access to breaking news, briefs, reactions, opinion, and process. iPolitics. Are you up for it?
Welcome back to the iPolitics panel. I'm James Baxter, founding editor of iPolitics. I'm joined by Keith Beardsley of True North Public Affairs, Susan Smith of Blue Sky Strategies, and Robin McLaughlin of Summa Strategies. In our previous sections, we looked at the throne speech this week and talked a little bit about the Canada-Europe trade agreement. I want you now to put on your Kreskin hats, and which dates us all, I think, and sort of gaze ahead 6 months, or a bit longer to next summer as we start to get into that the real election grind, that final year. Where do you think we will be? What will we be talking about in 6 months with this? With this government and the federal government? We'll have a budget in between. There's a number of things that we'll have an opportunity to measure. Susan, how do you see it playing out?
I think we'll still be talking about the economy because that's critical for all Canadians. I think you'll be talking about healthcare. I think you'll be talking about the environment. I think you'll be talking about, people will be talking about that they're done with the current government nearly 10 years in. We know that governments often defeat themselves, or usually defeat themselves after a long run. And then we'll be talking about who truly is the best alternative to run the country. I think what you'll see a year from now on the Liberal side is more of the team having emerged, more of the Chrystia Freelands, more of the Andrew Leslies, more of the very, very high caliber of bench and of team that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals will put forward in the next election. And that's where you'll see the contrast between the NDP, who still have a tremendous amount of youth, but I'm not sure they're going to have the firepower that they need, and the Conservatives, who are more on the tired and worn side, in the lead into the no indication of my colleague right here.
Gauntlet on the ground there.
That's what I think you'll see starting next summer.
Robin, how do you see it the next 6 months playing out, and where do you see the opportunities to draw blood?
Well, I think this was Stephen Harper's last throne speech. I think we are entering the post-Harper era, and I agree with Susan very much. We probably have different answers to the question, but Canadians will start to ask themselves as they recognize this and as the government looks more and more stale and out of touch, who is the competent national leader who has the team behind him from coast to coast to coast that can defeat Stephen Harper, replace him with competent and experienced public administration. I think it was funny in reading John Iveson's National Post columnist coverage of the throne speech. He talked about the middle class squeeze, but he talked about it being the middle class trying to avoid the attempts by all three parties to hug them to death. And I think that's what we're going to see is all parties competing. It's a very competitive space. 90% of Canadians think they're in the middle class, so it's understandable why the parties want to fight over that territory. But I think the challenge and the opportunity for Thomas Mulcair and the official opposition is to actually talk about the real economic security issues that are facing Canadians, not necessarily the consumer irritant issues that the government tried to put in the window in the throne speech, things that the NDP has actually supported, but stuff like retirement security, youth unemployment, affordable housing, household debt. These are the issues that are really squeezing Canadians, seniors' care, and the list goes on. And I think the NDP will be putting forward alternative policies and vision for governing than the Conservatives and the Liberals.
Keith, we talked at the beginning, 8 points to come back to the 2011 poll numbers. How do you see the next 6 months playing out for the government?
Well, I think you've got two. I mean, the government's going to do its thing no matter what. To me, it's more what's going to happen on the opposition side and who's going to finally become the opposition, if you want. I mean, right now it's sort of fractured and divided. If you look at the Liberals, they've got a leader who, he's marketable, he's a nice guy, he's got a presence, and you can sell him. As you get down the road, as you get closer to that election, the policies are going to start coming forward, and people are going to start judging not just the man who's standing there in front of the TV, but what does he stand for? How well is he going to do as a prime minister versus as the leader of a party, whether it's second, third, or whatever? It doesn't make any difference. And on the NDP side, they've got to try and somehow get Mulcair to be known by Canadians. We have the prosecutor Mulcair. We saw him with some of the Senate questions. We've had the angry Mulcair. Now we've got the sincere Mulcair. So which one is going to be coming forward 6 months to a year from now? And they still have that problem where how do you get his profile media-wise in front of the average Canadian as often as what the Liberals can do? Just watch the news clips. Who gets the clip? Mulcair stands up, asks an excellent question, You don't see it on the news clip. It's Trudeau asking his question. So they have to overcome that, and it's very difficult to do. I've been in that spot. It is really hard to do.
I think I can both agree and disagree with Keith on that point. Over the summer, we certainly saw how the NDP was challenged by that. Mulcair with lots to say, and not a lot of media listening. Trudeau with nothing to say, and every single journalist in the country waiting on every breath he has. But when the House is sitting, that is where Justin Trudeau has his problems. The House makes him nervous. You could see that in responding to the throne speech, his breath. I mean, he wasn't as the composed, relaxed Justin Trudeau that spent the summer enjoying a media honeymoon. So I think that Mulcair is very excited for the House to be back because it demonstrates his strength in holding the government to account and being a true leader. And I think that's where the media is clipping him because it's clippable. Justin Trudeau's performance in the House just isn't.
I think there's a lot of wishful thinking on the NDP part there. We'll see how it all plays out in the House. I think the one thing that Keith is missing with the Conservatives going forward, or that he forgot to add, was that you're going to see more and more unrest in the Conservative backbenches. This is it. This is the election team. The Prime Minister set that out when he named the cabinet. There are folks who think that they could be the leader too. There are folks who are unhappy with how the command and control strategy or approach of the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office, and that's only going to clamp down tighter in some respects in the lead up to the election. But there'll be more bubbling, simmering pots in the background, so the Prime Minister is going to have to deal with that, as well as putting forth the kind of face and some kind of agenda for the people of Canada to not think he's tired and done.
Lightning round, how do you, the Bloc Québécois is largely a non-issue, but the Green Party still has about 8% of the popular vote parked with it. How do each of your parties go and try and woo some of that over? Because it's in a lot of cases, it's what puts candidates over the top.
I think the Green Party vote will not disappear entirely, but it will dry up because there's now an alternative in the Liberals that there wasn't in the last two elections.
Robin?
I'm stunned by that. I think maybe those Green supporters might look at the Liberal record on the environment when they were in power, 13 years in power and nothing on GHG emissions, signed Kyoto and did nothing about it. So I don't think that's really a concern. What also, though, has to happen is that progressive voters have to figure out who is best able to replace Stephen Harper and the Conservatives. And there's going to be a galvanizing moment over the next 6 to 18 months where progressive voters decide who is best capable, who has the national team, who has strength across regions, across all provinces, who has strength both in Francophone and Anglophone Canada, who has strengths on the East and West Coast. And that's not the Liberal Party, and that's not the Green Party, that's the NDP.
There's your commercial brought to you by Robin.
Last word on that one. The last word on that one, Brian Mulroney was a darling of the environmentalists.
Exactly.
So how
Greenest Prime Minister in
win that
Canadian history, so anything can happen, you never know. But part of it, you mentioned the Green Party. When you go back to the founding of the Green Party, and actually if you look at their policy platforms, a lot of that was done by the Red Tories.
Absolutely.
So they're sort of they appear on the media as a one-trick pony, but they're not when you get into the platform. So I don't think that Green Party vote, if it splits anywhere, is going into any one party. It will fragment all over. Probably more towards the NDP and the Liberals, but I wouldn't count on some of them going over to the Tories as well.
That's what I asked. Well, thank you all. It's been an excellent discussion, and I think we've got a pretty good idea of where this is all going to go. Keith, Susan, Robin, thanks very much, and please join us next week for the next iPolitics panel.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
James.
Thank you.